What if everything you've heard about high performing teams is wrong? What if the real drivers of performance aren't talent, experience, or even strategy, but something even far more human, something quieter, deeper, and often invisible? Today, we're diving into the truth about high performing teams. Not the Instagram version, not the corporate poster version, but the version backed up by organizational psychology, business research, and decades of academic research. And once you understand these principles, you will never lead the same way again. So let's start with the biggest myth in organizational life. If you put the smartest people in the room, you'll get the best results. It sounds logical, it feels intuitive, but research consistently proves the opposite. Google's Project Aristotle spent 2 years studying 180 teams to understand what makes some teams excel while others struggle. They expected to find the best teams were made from the best individuals, but the data said something radically different. There was no correlation between team performance and IQ, seniority, experience, educational background, or personality type. None whatsoever. Instead, the highest performing teams shared behavioral patterns, not talent patterns. Let's take a look at MIT and Carnegie Mellon's research. A landmark study by Woolley, Chalbus, Pentland, Hashim, and Malone 2010 introduced the concept of collective intelligence, a measurable factor that predicts how well a team performs across a wide range of tasks. And what it predicts is not collective intelligence, not individual IQ, not the presence of a star performer, not the loudest voice in the room, but three key things. Number one, social sensitivity, the ability to read emotions and to respond appropriately. Number two, equal turn taking. Not one voice dominates and no one disappears. Everyone has an equal chance for their voice to be seen, heard, and validated and to contribute to the project equally. And the third, and I would say one of the most important, is psychological safety, that people feel safe to speak, question, and challenge. These findings flipped the traditional model of performance on its head. The truth is this: high performing teams are not built on brilliance, they are built on behavioral norms, emotional intelligence, and relational culture. Talent might get you into the room, but culture determines what happens once you're there. Now, let's talk about one thing that's misunderstood in a performance driver: psychological safety. This term was introduced by Harvard professor Amy Edmondson, who discovered that the highest performing teams shared one thing: a belief that they can speak up, make mistakes, ask questions, and challenge ideas without the fear of embarrassment or without the fear of punishment or consequences. This single variable predicts 50% higher productivity, 76% more engagement, 27% lower turnover, and more innovation, creativity, and problem solving. Why is this? Because psychological safety unlocks the behaviors that talent alone cannot produce. Talent without safety becomes silent. People hold back ideas, they avoid risks altogether, and they protect themselves instead of the mission. Talent without safety also becomes defensive. Feedback feels threatening, mistakes feel dangerous, and learning slows down. And talent without safety becomes competitive instead of collaborative. People fight for visibility instead of impact. They hoard information, they prioritize individual success over collective success. But when safety is present, everything changes. People ask better questions, they experiment, they challenge assumptions, and they learn faster, they innovate more. They trust each other, and in organizational psychology, this is known as learning behavior, and it is the foundation of adaptive, resilient, and high performing teams. Safety beats talent every single time. So if you want a high-performing team, you need to establish a safe culture so that they can thrive, so that they can collaborate. Now let's talk about something leaders underestimate: the psychological and financial cost of exclusion. This is not a soft issue. This is a performance issue. Employees who feel excluded are 7 times more likely to be disengaged, 5 times more likely to miss work, and 3 times more likely to leave within a year. Disengagement alone costs organizations billions every year. Deloitte's inclusion report show inclusive teams outperform others by 80% in team-based assessments, 30% in decision-making quality, and 2 times in innovation output. Inclusion isn't a moral preference, it's a competitive advantage. So let's take a look at the neuroscience of exclusion. This is where it gets even more interesting. Studies from UCLA show that social exclusion activates the same neural pathways as physical pain. The brain literally interprets exclusion as danger. When people feel excluded, the brain shifts into self-protection, hypervigilance, reduced creativity, reduced collaboration, and reduced working memory. This means that exclusion doesn't just hurt feelings, it reduces cognitive capacity. It makes people less able to think, solve problems, and contribute. That is the hidden cost. Exclusion doesn't just silence voices, it silences potential, and potential is the most valuable currency in any organization. Belonging isn't a nice to have, it is a performance strategy. The feeling of being accepted, valued, and included for who you are and what you contribute is what organizational psychology defines as belonging. And here's what high-performing teams intentionally build. Number one, they create predictable communication norms. Research from the Center of Creative Leadership shows that clarity reduces conflict by 50%. High-performing teams don't leave communication to chance. They define it. They define the mission, the values, how feedback is given, how decisions are made, how conflict is handled, how information is shared, how meetings are run. Predictability creates psychological safety. Consistency builds credibility, and credibility allows for safer environments. It reduces anxiety, it increases trust. Number two, practicing inclusive leadership behaviors. According to Catalyst, inclusive leaders demonstrate curiosity. They ask, they listen, and they learn. They want to know you, not just about you. There's a difference. Humility, they admit their mistakes, they take accountability and responsibility for it, and they're not afraid to say sorry when they're wrong. Courage, they challenge bias and iniquity. They have the boldness and the bravery to stand up and challenge when things are not done in a productive way, when they are not done in a conducive or inclusive way. The fourth is empathy. They understand lived experiences. And the final one, I've touched upon this already, is accountability. They follow through and they have integrity for their work. Who they are outside their title and their platform. Leading with kindness is not just a performance strategy, it's a lifestyle. Who are they outside of the boardroom as well as inside the boardroom? Do they match? So inclusive leadership isn't a personality trait. These behaviors increase team innovation up to 20%. It's a practice, it's a habit. Shared mental models are the invisible architecture of high-performing teams. They ensure that everyone understands the mission, the priorities, the roles, the expectations, and the processes. It's clearly defined. Teams with shared mental models make faster, more accurate decisions. They waste less time, they experience fewer misunderstandings, and they operate in alignment. MIT research shows that teams with equal turn-taking have significantly higher collective intelligence. This doesn't mean that everyone speaks the same amount. It means everyone has the same opportunity to contribute. Leaders can create voice equity by inviting quieter voices, by rotating facilitation, using structured round, normalizing I'm not sure yet, and not having all the answers and having it all figured out and being willing to learn, and rewarding thoughtful contributions and encouraging it. Voice equity is the heartbeat of belonging. And the final one is celebrating identity, not just output. Belonging grows when people feel valued for their story, their culture, their strengths, their lived experiences, their perspective. This is where DEI meets performance, not just as a compliance exercise, but as a human strategy. When people feel seen, they show up differently, they contribute differently, and they perform differently. So the truth about high-performing teams is simple. They're not built accidentally. They are built intentionally through safety, through inclusion, through belonging, and through culture. When humans thrive, organizations rise. When teams feel safe, seen, supported, they don't just perform, they transform. So if you enjoy this video, share this with a friend. And if you are looking for a speaker within your organizations to do a CPD session on DEI or belonging, find me on LinkedIn and we shall get a conversation going. And follow this channel for more organizational psychology tips to enhance your organization strategy and enhancing team performance. Until next time, bye.